Welcome to the Payments Leader Show, where I have a fireside chat with handpicked leaders from the payments industry. They share how they lead their people, how they create winning and human-centered cultures, where they embrace the opportunities first before they then meet the challenges. Now, we all know one of the most difficult things in the payments industry is how do you build a culture that enables people at an individual level to realize their potential, yet naturally realizing high performance for the company. One of the most accomplished people I know is Maria Medvedeva, who is responsible for 70 professionals directly and cross-functionally and works for MasterCard across the Saudi and Bahrain offices. She has led exceptional growth in the industry and in that particular reason. She has been a strong advocate for female inclusion and empowerment. And I'm fascinated to hear from Maria how her lens and perspective of the progress in Saudi and how the payments ecosystem has developed in the last 2 years, but also then how the development has happened from an inclusion and diversity perspective. So thank you, Maria, for taking the time out of your obviously very, very busy schedule, and welcome on the show.
Thank you, Adrian.
So I wonder if we could just start with, can you share where you're coming from? You know, the foundation that's made you the individual and the professional you are.
Again, thank you, Adrian, for inviting to the show. I'm extremely honored to be a part of this show and for this audience. My journey is a very long journey. I'm a Russian-Ukrainian technologist, so a Russian mom, Ukrainian dad, with a US and UK education, having lived and worked both in US and Middle East for the past 15 years. And yes, it does makes for very interesting dinner conversations at the family dinner. So I'm Maria Medvedeva. I'm a country manager for Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, and also I lead a local entity of MasterCard in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. My mom was a dean of the Russian State University. She's also a member of Academy of Science. My father is a CEO and founder of a geological exploration company. So very, very scientifically strong mathematical background. At 17, though, I left for US Midwestern. So I went to Ohio University to really look for an American dream. And having very rich cultural background coming from Russia and Ukraine, and entering America, which was a melting pot of cultures, was incredible. It was incredible and really taught me a lot of resilience, adaptability, and also how to build and operate larger teams. This is what America was good for. Someone has recently asked me about what brand you identify with. And many people, I think 95% of people identify with the car brands when they talk about it.
Okay.
But for me, it was always Nike, because every commercial of Nike you have, it's about focus, strength, and will, right? Just do it.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So what are the values that drive you and also help the organization?
That's a very, very good question now, Adrian. I think as a teenager and as an adult, I have always been creating bold dreams. Going to the United States from Russia at the time was challenging, right? We were coming from communism and then going into unknown. It was just like entering some black square. I mean, you did not know what you experienced. So for me now, creating bold dreams and building the community where everyone shines and make their dreams come true. I think that's the achieving the joint greatness. That's the most important for me.
Wow. Tell me about joint greatness. What does that mean? Because that's fascinating for me.
I've spent a lot of time with many different coaches. I really do enjoy talking to smarter people in terms of development. And recently, I just actually identified my non-negotiable values. And non-negotiable values for me were adaptability, which, it was surprisingly, right? You had 100 values. You reviewed 100 values. You identified 8. You prioritized them. And then you realize that what you prioritized is what drives you and what attracts people to you. And my number one was adaptability to cultures, to situations, to challenges, to crisis. So even the crisis response, it's how you adapt in the difficult circumstances. The second one was community, so building a community. And third one was greatness. So greatness for me is not achieving individual or personal greatness. It's raising the community, each individual to shine, so that together we achieve this new state of development, a new state of greatness. That's what it means for me.
Wow. Sorry, that so resonates with me, because just to quickly, but my goal whilst I'm on this planet is to positively impact 20,000 careers. And it's interesting for me when you put your energy there rather than here. It's amazing how all ships can rise. Wonderful, wonderful. So you're just a segue here. You're responsible for market making and commercial
Yes.
success for MasterCard in two key growth areas, in terms of Saudi and Bahrain. What role does customer adaptability play in creating innovative value propositions?
So let's look at what has happened in Saudi, because it's important to understand the foundation and the evolution of Saudi over the past 4 or 5 years. In 2016, Saudi announced the Vision 2030. And then it was a very, very ambitious plan to diversify economy and bring more opportunities to these people. But many were in doubt. And in 2019, it introduced a new goal. It said, let's move by 2030 to be 70% cashless. So again, it was almost impossible. The country in 2016 was 18% cashless society, right? To move from 18% to 70 within a short period of time looked almost impossible. And I always look back at our Argentina and Saudi goal and match in World Cup, in the recent World Cup. You remember after that win, everywhere it says, impossible is not Saudi. So in fact, 62% digitization has taken place now. I mean, as of 2020. I mean, I'm sure that in the past month it's even progressed more. But
What's that percentage again now?
Digitization means that across all the cash in society, which we have about 1 trillion cash in the Saudi society, $1 trillion in cash. When you take $1 trillion in cash from the personal expenditures, business expenditures, and governments, if you break it down, 62% of that is already digitized through different digital means. Wow. It could be card, could be account to account, it could be electronic check payments. These are all electronic payment methods. So to move the society of $1 trillion from having 18% to 62 is almost impossible. But the companies and the government has taken major steps. And I'll share with this some of the steps, because we are really helping this society and we're creating the seamless commerce a lot. We're helping almost 1 million SMEs, small and medium businesses as well, which currently exist in Saudi. And despite all the economic challenges across the world, our business is very healthy. You know, we have actually eased on inflationary pressures. You could see that consumer sentiment and consumer spending remain very resilient. It changed. Now the consumers in Middle East are into experiences. It's moved away from buying air conditioners and TVs and home-based goods. Consumers now would like to experience things, to experience travel. But I'm not only talking about the travel. It's even the dining has become an experience, right? So we have seen this discretionary spending changing from purely focusing on goods, services, to experiences. And this is something which is very important for us as well, because, we in 2018, we worked with the Saudi government to enable 30 million debit cards to be used on e-commerce. So all of that, right? The experiences include the travel, the e-commerce experiences, right? It's even payment experiences in metaverse yet to come. But all of these innovative payment methods is what we as MasterCard enable. And I'm very privileged to be here in this country where we did power up the e-commerce along with the account-to-account systems. In addition to that, you would be very interested to know that a lot of data from those systems gets analyzed, and then we utilize those insights or consumer passion points, as I call them, to power up the businesses of our partners. Because the data now is gold, but not being able to utilize data is something which most companies now are facing. You have lots of data, how you categorize it, how do you take it into account, what is the value you can get from this, right? So we as MasterCard, we have a lot of different value-added programs for our partners to take that data and utilize it to better their business. It's a long, it's a long story. I can probably talk about another 5 hours about how we partner with governments, with ministries, with the fintechs, merchants, FIs. The ecosystem itself is what's important. MasterCard develops an ecosystem play. And what's important is that everyone in this ecosystem benefits from this play.
Wonderful. That's so, there's so many questions I could ask there as well, but as you say, I love the fact that that's an ecosystem. That's why, for instance, I'm in the payments industry, because I love the fact that everywhere somebody benefits. We can get 4 wins, we can get 5, we can get 6, as opposed to just sort of just in the tech space sometimes. So tell me a little bit more about passion points, because I know you mentioned food there, and you mentioned experience as well, and just beyond the product. What are other examples of consumer passion points?
Oh, this is a brilliant question. I love it. So Adrian, many years ago, MasterCard brand was very, very low in the system. Then we have our brilliant CMO, Raja, who came in and actually developed our branding through eyes, through new look. The logo has changed to remove MasterCard.
Yeah.
The ears, right? You remember we have now a music melody for MasterCard acceptance. We have a passion perfumes. So we launched the perfume. We have priceless food restaurants in Brazil and New York. We have even just different experiences. I mean, everything to the passion points, right? And all of this combined in a platform called Priceless. And Priceless is priceless experiences for people. It could be a passion experience. Last week we were in Brits Awards. So I've had my red carpet in Brits Awards. Previous, it was attending UEFA Liverpool versus Manchester United match, which is soccer, football, right? The passion point. Previous event, we had a red carpet at a film festival. So these are consumer passion points. It's what drives you as a consumer. It could be opera, film, food, gourmet experiences, art, right? I'm a gourmet. I love different foods. Saudi now is incredible. So once you come here, we would like to invite you. You'll be surprised how many high-class, unique restaurants we have.
Wow.
We even have dining clubs where you can experience different Michelin star chefs at these dining clubs.
Wow.
So very unusual experiences, exactly. So no longer you want just to go to a restaurant to eat. You want to go to a restaurant to experience that unique, personalized approach to your food, right? Some people love travel, but in principle, as you know, we as MasterCard understand that very well based on the numbers, based on aggregated data we receive. Of course, it's anonymized data, so we do not ever see the data of consumers, but we receive the data we understand where we spend. And that's where I told you that all the money now is flowing through experiences. It's no longer just focused on the furniture and the shops and then some very basic clothes. It moved away from it.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How you can almost relate that to sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, can't you?
Yes.
As people look towards self-actualization and the when those basic needs are looked after, there's more on that route to self-actualization and living and the experience. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, I actually asked our team that next time if you can please have a session with His Holiness Dalai Lama. That would be for me the most interesting because I actually truly enjoy that. That's what I would like to see. Sadhguru, Dalai Lama, things that really makes me different. That's my experience. That's what I would like to experience.
Yeah, wonderful. I think that would be. I don't forget years ago I was in Ireland and I didn't realize, but the Dalai Lama was like only 20 miles away. And I was just thinking, that's an opportunity you missed. You had to be in that room, because I'd only just started meditating at the time. But hey, look, there are some amazing people on this earth, and I think we need to remember that.
Absolutely.
So I've been reliably informed by a number of people actually that you're a leader who's committed to lead with curiosity, decency, and by building a community. Can you share where that comes from? I know we touched on it earlier, but what's the connection between curiosity, decency, and commercial success? Because that's certainly not always the case. And there's a lot of businesses who see commercial success by whatever means, yet you've combined a really strong set of values and exponential growth.
So let me take a step back and share with you something. The previous governor of Saudi Central Bank, he just took a new role with the royal court, Dr. Fahad. He has always mentioned that I am the ambassador of Saudi, and he called me Sheikha Maria. So Sheikha is a very interesting word. When you look at the definition of what Sheikha means, it's actually a woman who runs a large family.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Wonderful.
So I balance two families. One family is at home. I have a kids, two young kids, 11 and 7, and a miniature pincher here with me in Saudi Arabia. And I have a very vibrant teams of MasterCard across Saudi and Bahrain. Very different teams, very different in terms of religion, nationality, subcultures, history, traditions. I always enjoy my learning is from them. Every time I'm actually, thinking about who would be the best role model in my life. It's each individual team members that contribute to me and provide to me feedback and give me this different understanding of the world. Everyone who visits our offices from anywhere in the world says that the team and office energy and spirit is just incredible. So the passion, which is I'm very proud of. I mean, I'm really, I'm really proud of that, right? It's something which you look and you enjoy seeing so many different people, including 40% female in the office, and young people. We have a tremendous young population. More experienced people all working together to create a seamless community. But beyond that, we create priceless experiences even for the outside of our community. So, for example, we run a paddle tournament. One of my young team members decided that they would create a paddle tournament for the banks and regulator and fintechs. And imagine we actually run a paddle tournament, paddle tennis. It's very popular now. It's picking up in fashion. I mean, everybody would like to play paddle tennis because it's for professionals and for simple, normal people like me, right? So everyone feels
it's accessible.
Yeah, it's accessible, right? Everybody feels that they can make a difference. And we've created this paddle competition. We went together to Africa to build school for children. We run female empowerment campaigns. Our campaign called HerVoice won many awards across the world. So I think we embed the MasterCard and technology into minds of youth at the Misk Foundation. So Misk Foundation is a foundation by MBS to promote leadership in young people and leadership across all different layers of society. We become a payment faculty that we teach quite often at the Misk Foundation. So very honored to be in the country, and we embed our values across all. So when we talk about curiosity or we talk about different values of authenticity, that's how we embed. We embed them at different stages, female, male, youth, empowerment of every single layer.
Wow. So I'm fascinated there because I'm a super curious person myself as well, but really mostly interested in how do you probably think you wake up every day with this and you're just curious to people. Many people aren't. So what is it that says you look beyond the hierarchy, you look beyond the skin color, you look beyond the subculture or the accent or the language, whatever it may be? How is it that you want to connect with that human?
It's very challenging, right? It's very challenging. You need to understand first. So you need to understand the subculture and the culture. Adrian, I read a lot of history. I do. I've read a lot of history before coming to Saudi. I attend history museums. I look at the art and paintings of the country. I look at religious differences between different sections of the religion. I try to really truly understand where they're coming from. So when you understand where they're coming from, you understand what motivates them, what disappoints them. And I also, I try to ask them to open up to me. What is it that top 3 features that disappoint them, what they're trying to achieve, and what is it what they consider to be success in their life? Because what I consider success is not necessarily what they consider. So I try to see it from their standpoint a bit more. And I set the regular checkups with them, of course. I mean, discipline and coaching, right, in the career development of people are extremely important. I don't call it a formal mentoring. I don't do formal mentoring. I do informal. And my door is always open from 8 till 9. You can come in and discuss your challenges, your ideas, how you want to take things, family matters. And I try to show or to guide everyone who comes into the office on what is the best for them, or maybe listen to them only. Sometimes I listen. Just an hour of listening sometimes really helps.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite sayings, which is everybody in this world needs a damn good listening to. I've yet to meet anybody who, when you build a safe environment for them, doesn't really want to open up and actually be heard. Everybody wants their voice heard, don't they?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So, we share a passion for reducing and surpassing the gender opportunity and pay gap. I wonder if you could share your lens on that, please.
Sure. Currently in Saudi, we have 35% female empowerment or female across different organizations. And at MasterCard, we had 40, as I have mentioned, because we are deliberately taking steps to hire more and more female. I have brilliant female Saudi nationals, other nationals, but in greatness, they are very spirited, very knowledgeable, very, let's say, insightful female. What's happening right now in Saudi is that if you look at labor pyramid structure, we are having a lot of bottom line entries, right? It's how do we grow them to be top line, where they can enter the board of directors and sit at the CEO levels. That is the most challenging part, Adrian, of I think of every society, but specifically here in Middle East, because the progression from bottom to top requires years. It requires years. It requires a generation, and of course, it has started recently, and so we have a lot of entry at the bottom lines, and still missing that progression. A lot of coaching has to be done, and we are doing it very effectively. I'm working with 2 organizations, with the GCC Institute, which is it's a board institute that grows female and male into board positions. We do a lot of certifications. I'm a member of the institute and also on the path to become a certified professional board member. I believe that collaboration of such GCC board institutes and capital market authorities can really drive female leadership to the boards. And the second one is top 30 female on boards, also organization which is worldwide driving the female on board, and gender diversity indexes. We actually work with companies like Bloomberg to really understand the gender diversity index and to showcase it at what level each different industry is at, which helps to open up the eyes of the ministers and the community. Because what happens with female, right? The board level female, they have great experiences, opinions, and crisis management strategies.
Yep.
Which at the end of the day, it means better governance for many organizations.
Yep.
And that's what we would like to achieve. So many different organizations driving it. I'm a big supporter of diversity. I do believe that we need to grow the pyramid, but not to say that even at the bottom line, we should not focus. I am focusing a lot on the growth and empowerment of the lower level of pyramid.
Okay. I'm hearing there that actually we this does take time. This does take generation, and obviously I'm from the UK, and thing always strikes me that the UK Pay Act was actually just before my lifetime, and actually for me, sort of politically and legally, it hasn't closed the gaps. So there's still significant gaps to this day. So it sounds to me like actively encouraging, actively actions at the most senior level is important. What you're advocating, is that correct?
I do believe so. I don't know. It's sometimes, Adrian, it has to be set from the top, and the top should buy in fully into the experiences and into what female diversity can bring to the board and C-levels, right?
Yeah.
Once there is a buy-in at the top level, then it's easier to grow and promote female. I do think that buy-in and that level of alignment is extremely important.
Brilliant, brilliant. Excellent, excellent. So just on that front then, how do you, if we could just probe this, how do you challenge the status quo then? Because for a lot of people, the truth is the status quo works. It's you know, if you're from a certain background and whatever, then there's no need for change, because you know, you and your children and whatever, they're going to be okay. Yep. You know, I'm from a sort of slightly sort of poorer demographic myself, so I can definitely relate to this. It was like, even go to university in my family, I was the first to go to university in my family, and that was quite something. But I knew it would just open this door, and it's changed my life and it's changed my generations. How do we challenge that status quo then, for the good of others as well?
Adriana, I'm not sure if I would like to challenge status quo. So what I would like to do is for female to adapt better, to become, you see, I think that a lot of times we have certain expectations or approaches as female leaders. And the more we become adaptable with the community sense, with this empowerment of the community, just projecting our values as mothers.
Yeah.
It's very simple. You project your values as mother, right? You are not, I mean, a lot of people will say that you are the same as a male, but we have different feelings and different projections and different strengths. So why don't we amplify our strengths? So a lot of times I am a mom and I'm a mother who is responsible, who is adaptable, who understands the needs of my children, right? And who is able to act responsibly on those needs, accountable to the wider family. How different is it in business? You are accountable for the needs, and you have to deliver on the needs of your partners and your ecosystem. Once we project these feelings better and not becoming aggressive, demanding, needy, or just kind of a power play, right? But once we project that better, maybe that would come people that we can make a change, accountable change, because mothers are everywhere, are the most respected, whether it is Quran or Bible or any religion, any history. You always have a mother as the most important, let's say, important item, right, of the family. It's like almost the pedestal of the family. It's the most important being. So I think that we should project our feelings much wider and greater, while still keeping a discipline, the same we keep discipline, governance, right? And again, that's what mother does. It's a discipline of the family, it's governance of the family, it's accountability of the family, where everyone is accountable to make this family successful, right? So I see that as a let's just say, how to break the barrier between in how to challenge status quo. Just project better yourself. Just be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else in this society. You are who you are, and you need to drive its societal values for you. So to me, adaptability and greatness, community greatness is who I am, right? And I think that that is what allowed me to operate very well in the Middle East, very well in America. So every country I go, I adapt to certain different standards, but at the end of the day, I project the same values.
Wow. Yeah, so I just reflecting on what you've said there about adaptation and actually authentically showing up, and I'm the beneficiary of a very of that sort of mother approach. Yep. and very strong female. All my role models actually growing up were all very strong females, from my nana or grandmother to my mother, and now my daughter and my wife. So I can definitely see that. But that's about adaptation, but also showing up as who you are.
Yes. At the end of the day, everyone, let's say in my team, they know very well, right, who I am. And when then situations happen, which are challenging situations, and there are some issues, and we always sit down, we discuss, and I share with them why I made a decision which may have been not the right decision. It was a decision based on circumstances, on event, on the response to that event, which may or may not have been pleasant for that family, for that community. But it's very important for everyone to understand the logic that I have taken to come to the decision, right? And so, based on that logic, you may not like it, but you accept it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, as a team member, I think it's also important. Authenticity is not always to like your leader 150%. It's when you respect the actions and decisions made by your leader in difficult circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And by the way, it requires many breakthrough in such circumstances. I mean, many breakthroughs and many failures for people to start respecting the leader, because every time you have to explain the rationale you have taken when reaching that very difficult and maybe sometimes unfair to some, unpleasant to others decision. Um, you just told me about a story where the board has dismissed the project. We have had such projects before too, where we all worked on something and it was very exciting, and then it was dismissed by management, and it felt like a personal failure, right? For everyone in the team, a personal failure. But in reality, there were steps taken by management and rationale. But when I understood, I explained to each team member so that they also understood the rationale. Not accepted the decision, but understood the rationale and how the thought process have come to that particular outcome. So I think that is very important, Adrian, to me, is that the authenticity is not always in liking 100% everything your leader does.
Yeah.
Right. It's accepting and following, and that's what I would for me, that's what when a great outcome happens.
Wonderful. Yeah. No, it's fascinating to hear this sort of, many would call it sort of that over communication of the decision, because it's very easy for many leaders to say, I've made the decision, that boat has sailed, harbor's closed, get on with it. Whereas actually taking the time out to explain the logic and the rationale behind that actually builds trust.
Absolutely.
Doesn't build, I completely agree with you, but what it does do is build trust for the next difficult decision. Because as you say, a leadership role is about quite often making difficult decisions, and sometimes in crisis, not always, but actually making key moments that are in situations. We have to make situational decisions every week as a leader. So I love that over communication part.
Adrian, another interesting thing is that, what we could do better, and I think that this is something which I take, I take next step, is not only over communicate the decision, but also ask what you would have done in the similar circumstances. So the person across from you or team member can place himself in your shoes and understand whether he could have taken the same decision. If he had a different rationale explanation and different decision, for me as a leader is also very interesting to hear, right? Because I need to understand what different steps could have been taken. What is the route number 1, 2, 3, 4? Maybe in my mind, I've selected route 1, but based on majority opinion, I should have gone for route 3. I need to understand why everyone thought this way. And it's great to really look at the routes, right?
Wonderful, yeah. It's interesting on that front as well, though, because I love your sort of, dare I say, growth mindset on that front, because there's going to be a similar situation next week that's actually, and again, if you take the same lens, I always remember one of my mentors always said to me when I was stuck in solution island, as he called it, sorry, in problem island, he's like, just think of a circle how many degrees is it got? I said 360. And he said, how many of those degrees do you think you're currently looking at this situation with? And I said, one. He said, well, there's at least 359 others that you might want to look at. And actually just said, oh, hang about. But that's again the beauty of some cognitive diversity as well, of actually just saying, why would somebody even just to the left there or to the right go, do you know what? Actually, I might have looked at it like this because they've got a different subculture or culture or skill set or whatever it may be. And I think dialogue's important. And if we can create dialogue in any situation, it's more like even the most difficult, violent places on the planet. Dialogue is always the goal, or is the start of getting around the table, isn't it?
Trust, yes. Yeah. Dialogue is the foundation of trust, absolutely.
Yeah. Wonderful. So just reflecting on who has helped you become, who's been most influential to you to becoming the authentic leader that you show up as each day now?
Such a challenging question, and many always ask about this question. And I feel as a sponge, taking the best and the worst of many people around me. I actually do take and evaluate whether the worst is something that I could utilize in certain circumstances, and the best is what I could utilize every day. So I take from families, from friends, from colleagues, from my bosses. I have had a very interesting bosses throughout my professional career of 25 years. I had some brilliant bosses. Some of them were people-driven people. Some of them were execution-driven leaders. Some had very specific business development skills in certain industries. It has been such a honor and greatness to work with every one of them and pick up on their best skills. That when I think about who is one leader that is out there in the world which makes tremendous difference to me, I don't have such a person, because I do take from everyone their best and worst, because I evaluate also thinking, well, can this worst be used in certain circumstances? And is it really the worst? Is it something that can be enhanced, reshaped, and moved into a different path? Like maybe, when you become very demanding, can it be moved into more disciplined approach? When you become more aggressive, can it be moved into more insightful aggressive, where you utilize the questions instead of you dictate? There is so many different. I almost overanalyze every leader that is around me, that I respect, to see what I can take from them and how can I enhance that. It's like, Adrian, it's like in a family, you always want your kids to become a little bit better than you, right?
Of course, yeah.
Right. So I always feel that my leaders, the ones that are around me, they want me always to be a little bit better than them. And I'm very blessed to have such empowerment among leadership that would like me to always go beyond and beyond, as well as my husband. My husband is identical. My family support has been incredible. We've moved to Saudi Arabia. His businesses are still in UAE, and he supports fully that progress in my life, right? So the leadership is not only, that's why I said it's also about the family, the colleagues around you, and the leaders.
Wonderful.
Another interesting thing, my very good friend, Dr. Mandeep Rai, I'm not sure if you know Dr. Mandeep, but if not, I will introduce you. Dr. Mandeep Rai, she wrote this amazing book called The Values Compass.
Yes,
and it's a highly, highly read, and now it's nominated for multiple awards. Even His Holiness Dalai Lama has endorsed it, and many Deepak Chopra. We spend a lot of time together talking about the leadership principles. That book was based on 101 countries. And what it allowed me to do, I would use that in my team events to say, let's take a stereotype, a prejudice about a country. So let's open Germany. What do you think about Germany? And then everybody would say their opinions, what they think the value of Germans. And they would open it, and she would tell us a story from Germany of one core value, non-negotiable value of that country that she identified. That was fun. It's such an engaging conversation because you break through barriers. You break through personal and professional barriers in such discussions because you You have your own vision and mindset of how Saudis should look like, how Emiratis should look like, how Russians or Ukrainians or or Americans. And by breaking through these cultural values, right, you understand better what is the
Wonderful.
true foundation of that person. And so this also helps in our leadership development, and it helps in building you as a leader.
Brilliant. That's a wonderful exercise because for me, coaching or progress like that is down to two things, but down to expanded awareness. Well, firstly, readiness to be coached is fundamental, but then expanded awareness and then an accountability to the new behavior. And actually, I love that first exercise you just described there because it actually says, let's challenge our assumptions, our A's and B's, our assumptions and beliefs, and
Yes.
actually let's hold something up. And then it's amazing because that literally is standing in somebody else's shoes, isn't it? And saying,
Yeah.
actually, if this is my background, this really is what I hold to be a true belief. So, which again expands awareness, but creates a possibility for dialogue and empathy as well.
That's right. Empathy is very important, and that's the foundation. We don't talk about empathy openly because it's just foundation of everything you do, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you can't be adaptable without empathy. You cannot understand people without empathy. I think it's just an underlying foundation.
sure, sure. So, if we could just reflect a little and go back to your 21-year-old self, what would you share with them that you know today that would actually be helpful?
So, Adrian, they're always on the path of discovery. We're discovering ourselves, we're looking at our weaknesses, our strengths, how to enhance them, how to minimize weaknesses. And what I realize now is that it's not about minimizing weaknesses. It's about amplifying your strengths. It's being uniquely you. As you said, I had a very nice conversation with you multiple times, and you told me this being uniquely you. And that's exactly what I've learned over these many years. Right? It's seeing how can you amplify your strengths? How can you build strategies and growth plans based on them? Right? It's not eliminating your weaknesses. It's there. It will be there. You will work with them. You will accept them. You will highlight them to yourself, and you try the best to minimize them and to not to show, of course, negativity. I mean, you need to accept who you are, right? But it's making you so unique and so different in the entire community that amplifying your strengths, I think it's a core, and that's what I should have told myself when I was younger.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, look, Maria, this has been incredible. I was very excited about our conversation
Thank you,
because
Adrian.
I just knew you had so much not just wisdom to share, but I do get my goal is always for somebody to take one of these pieces of action. So anywhere around the globe, somebody actually said, you know what, I could relate to that, and actually that could lift them. That would only enhance the community. So thank you, and thank you for your honesty and candor as well, and you showing up as you. Um, this is normally where I try and sort of break this conversation down to about 3 or 4 points, but I've made 4 pages of notes here. So I'm just going to try and summarize, not so much summarize, but just create some themes that I've heard, if that's okay. I think there's one word that stood out more than any other through this is actually adaptation. Adaptation to, as you've experienced in different cultures, in different countries, but also then realizing whom you are and what your value set are, what's your non-negotiables, but also projecting those to bold dreams, but bold dreams for all, so all boats can rise. And actually, at the same time, then whether that's as well just adapting better to help everybody else throughout that particular journey, whether that's with gender opportunity and then helping at every level to that action, but again adapt rather than challenge. And I love the way you sort of not just reframed that, but also said this is more likely to succeed. Let's take people with us rather than sort of challenge from this sort of perspective. But also, I just think that piece around the adaptation, the acceptance, but also then how do you then amplify as well? Because I think the truth is we've all got work-ons. We're all going to be told you could do a bit better at this, you could do a bit better at that, but actually accepting what you uniquely bring to an organization, to yourself, to how you show up to your family. But if I could just honor this as well, I think the exemplification that is, for you as a mother, and a leader, as you said, you have multiple hats, but they're the same hats. And when you show up authentically as you, caring for that community and actually being responsible for that community, but also communicating to that community as well, you show up well for yourself. So they're my big takeaways from today. Is there anything else you'd add to that?
Thank you, Adrian, and I really honored again to be part of the podcast. I think you kind of amplify, adapt. You nailed all the core principles of how we drive this community and how we drive the leadership. I actually always think that working with someone and learning on different cultures experience is what makes us different.
Yeah.
Being curious about the culture, about the history is what makes you succeed in a different country, in different organizations. I wish that every relocation included cultural programs, and
Yeah.
every time a foreign leader come to the country, they should have probably a history lesson, a people's lesson before we come and try to apply the foreign principles on any country. I think it's extremely important to understand the audience, not just through business perspective, but from the foundation they bring, right? What is the foundation, how they grew up, and what drives them. And then you can easily deliver your message and easily amplify that relationship.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I think if there's a wonderful challenge there for everybody in the audience to say, whether it's your next meeting to somebody from a different culture, from a different country, is how can you get curious to understand more at a human level? So Maria, thank you so much for today. Absolutely thoroughly enjoyed today, and there's so many takeaways from them. And I look forward to, it'd be great to have you back on the show sometime. So thank you so much.
Thank you.